Hello everyone, welcome. We are at the oak panelled room here at Alfoxton. We've just made it from cycling 420,
20 odd, 26.
426, let's say that, 426 kilometres from Canterbury to here in 4 days. This is like the first part of our big journey up to John O'Groats that Seb, myself, and a few other people who are soon to join will be doing, all to raise money for Alfoxton. This was Seb's idea originally, so I don't know if you want to say a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to. First, I just want to acknowledge how strange and weird this is. The fact that we're sat here in these two lovely armchairs and on camera is just weird. Talking to potentially infinite people, and there's Hartley here who's just like silently observing. It's not a usual situation for me, so I just wanted to acknowledge that that's bubbling on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the moment, actually. It was last year. It was on a weekend retreat at Rivendell Retreat Centre, and it was on the Sunday post cleanup, when a load of young Buddhists were sat around on the lawn at Rivendell, and there was that feeling in the air that we'd just finished something, like something had just happened. And we were sort of basking in the sun after having completed something. And it was resting, but it wasn't kind of that kind of resting. It was a very alert and awake kind of resting. It's very beautiful. And there was this kind of clarity. And I was looking around and I thought, you've got quite a nice bike. You've got quite a nice bike. Wow, there's like 5 or 6 people here with like really nice bicycles. And nothing else happened. And I just said, we should do a Sangha tour. And about 5 people's ears just pricked up and went... And it was like in that moment, something had just kind of popped into existence. And I was like, oh yeah, something's going to happen. Something's going to come out of this. And then since then, it's just been like a slow, organic sort of process of organising it and bringing it together and getting it happening, really. And then sort of, yeah, my first thing was, fundraising. We should fundraise for it. And then it was decided that we'd fundraise for Alfoxton. So I don't know, maybe you'd like to say a bit about why that project?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got some ties to here. My partner lives here. But I think, something about cycle touring, I think, something about doing pilgrimage or travelling is a sort of edge to it. You're out in the world all the time. Whilst we have been, we've been well put up by people en route here. We have done a bit of camping so far, and we'll be well put up by people on our way up to John O'Groats, but we'll also do a bit of camping, and you're out in the elements for over 8 hours a day. There's an edge to it. I can't think of a more edgy place in Triratna than Alfoxton. There's something very alive and wild and kind of raw here. And it just made a lot of sense that if we're doing this, it feels linked in a very strong way.
Yeah, it makes me think of like brambles and stinging nettles. They're like the pioneer plants for the forest. They sort of break into the grasslands, don't they, by being like spiky and in difficult kind of conditions, thriving in difficult conditions, and then that sort of makes a little bit
the softer stuff.
Lets the kind of softer stuff happen, and it does kind of have that feel. It's like you got to be quite tough and not like tours are like gnarly sometimes, like calloused,
calloused and lean.
Yeah.
And I think that that I like that analogy of the kind of pioneer plants. One of the a real synthesizing moment for me when we were thinking about doing this was the point I can't remember whose idea it was. I don't know if it was my idea or if I kind of was convinced of it. It was probably my idea to ride on a cargo bike instead of a regular normal bike.
Yeah, that was definitely your idea.
and carry a Buddha on the front of it, a Buddha figure. You know, that perfect, you know, we've titled what we're doing here Turning the Wheel. It is a great pun, but it's also the best title for something like this. Traveling, moving through the world is a sort of pioneering action. And we're not really, you know, we're not bringing the Dharma where we're going, but in some ways we're kind of like creating a channel for the Dharma to travel through.
I remember the conversation now. I suggested that we all have like little keyring Buddhas on the front of our bikes. Like, that would be nice little totem to bring up to Scotland. And you were like, no. Big golden Buddha, full-sized on the front. Which is going to be beautiful when it's complete, because we'll be able to park your bike up and, you know, and then we'll have a shrine around us when we're camping.
Yeah.
You know, it's just going to be beautiful.
It's going to be lovely. Lovely.
Yeah. So, should we talk a little bit about the kind of conditions that we're going to move into after Buddhafield?
Yeah.
So it's been quite like light and just been basically a little touring holiday so far for us, getting to know each other a little bit better. I just would like to say I've really enjoyed getting to know you over these last few days. I feel like we've got quite a familiarity, but we've only really spent time either on retreat or working together, which are very kind of specific things. So it's nice to just have had like plenty of time just to be doing something we both love and doing. I think that's been my favourite part so far. That there was a moment with about 45 minutes to go before we reached here yesterday, where Kit mentioned the fact that he'd designed a survival video game based on bike touring. And in that moment I thought, I found the one. I've been waiting for this conversation my whole life. Okay, let's talk. I think that might be my highlight. Do you have anything?
Yeah. No, it's been really, really lovely this first part. It really has felt like a holiday, which has been great. I just really want to say thank you for, like, you've done a lot of work organising this and putting it together and really like making it a thing. Which is actually, you know, there's a real tension with doing it's a bit like going on retreat. You kind of just want to stop, just focus on cycling, just enjoy your time, but you've really gone above and beyond to kind of like make sure that there's a thing happening here that other people know about and brings others in, which I feel really grateful for. I've had loads of fun so far. It's been really great. But I think the thing that really comes out for me is just like you came to my house in Canterbury the night before we left. And I just immediately felt like, oh, it's all in hand. It's all fine. It's going to be great. I don't know what you did, but there was just some sense that kind of travelled with you that was just like, yeah, and then we're just going to do it. And that'll be fine. And that's continued through the trip. It's felt very, very easy. In one way, interestingly manifesting it, I have been eating less than I normally do on a tour. I'm normally like an absolute garbage bin, and I just like, but like I've just felt very easy, and so I've a little bit less craving, which is nice.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Shall we do some questions?
Well, I'll just say, as you mentioned, we've just done this first 400-ish kilometres from Canterbury to Alfoxton. Basically, it's just a fun little holiday. Today, we're recording this on Tuesday, we are going to be heading to Buddhafield for the festival. And that will mark the kind of like official start. We've got more people joining us at Buddhafield. And when we leave Buddhafield on Sunday, we'll be kind of entering into semi-retreat conditions.
About as retreat conditions as you can get whilst trying to cycle the length of the country, I think.
I mean, what I'm learning about myself is that cycle touring makes me quite manic. So we'll see how we can maintain some stillness, simplicity and contentment through also just being like gunning it down a hill and being really excited. But yeah, just for clarity, that's where we're going. We'll be kind of entering into a kind of ritualized space. Indra Bodhi is currently very heroically finishing the Buddha that will be going on the front of my cargo bike. So hopefully by the end of Buddha Field, that will have been. I feel like there should be a special word for putting a Buddha on something. The Buddha will be placed. The shrine will kind of be built, and the kind of the thing will happen.
I'm going to ask the lovely festival goers of Buddha Field to adorn our bicycles in beautiful but lightweight adornments, which will be fun to see what they look like after that.
Fantastic, yeah. Should we do some questions and answers?
Great, so I've got some questions from our adoring fans. And by adoring fans, I mean the thoughts that have accosted me before I've been going to sleep for the last few nights. Because I don't know if anyone's going to watch this. Yeah, it might just be my mum. Hi, mum. Yeah, do you want to pick one? Do you want to just pick one out of these?
Well, I think the first one's really good. Why do you do it? Why do you ride for thousands of miles? And why do you do it self-supported?
I think it's the closest experience I have to freedom, to like pure freedom. That's it, in a nutshell. You've got everything you need. Potentially survive. You can live like that for months or years. I've done 6 months in the saddle, quite comfortably. Spent £300 over the whole 6 months. So yeah, I think for me it's just like absolutely the closest you can get to freedom. When you can lift up your whole life and put it over a fence and then climb over the fence, like that's liberation for me. Not to mention the people as well, like the people that you meet along the way. One, you get into situations where you're in like a random village that no one ever goes to because there's no tourism there, there's nothing there. And you cycle through and you stop for a break and people are like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And you're like, well, I have to go through here because I'm going this way. And they're just like delighted to kind of meet you and talk to you. And also they respect what you're doing as well. So you get lots of help. You really do get assisted. It's not a thing that you do on your own, cycle touring. You can't, it's impossible to cycle tour on your own. You have to be willing to let people help you along the way. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of that. I think, I've always had this kind of like drive to just kind of just move. I did a lot of traveling when I was young, but in the classic, get on a plane, go walk around a city, and it always felt empty. There's something about just like, traveling by plane or even car really, although less so. You kind of exist in one place and then you're in the next place, and there's no integrative transition. And you get that with hiking and everything, but I am a massive bike nerd, and I love bicycles, and you can just go much further than you can on foot, but you still get that full integration of you've seen the outskirts, you've seen the foliage change, you've seen the environment change. Just coming here, I mean, I've done a lot of touring around the south of England, and I know it very well, but even still, it's just so refreshing to feel the land change as you go through it, and it means your entire body comes with you. You're not just there and then you're back home. You've done the movement, which is really, really wonderful. And yeah, just the level of community that just springs up, as you said, is. I'm not a very kind of. I don't, it's hard work for me to talk to strangers often, but there's something lovely about you got this big thing that you can just talk about, which is your bike. And then it just sparks this immediate joy and interest, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think this one's mainly for you. What's the craziest thing that's happened while you've been doing one of these?
Oh gosh, it's quite hard to choose really. The craziest thing that's ever happened bike touring. I think, oh god, I could just rattle like so many images are coming to my mind. I've nearly died twice bike touring. Once in someone's flat, and once I jumped into a river for fun, and I went over some rapids, and I was like, woohoo! As I went over the rapids, and obviously like expelled all my air, and then got caught in an undercurrent and nearly drowned. But it was funny because I remember being in the water and thinking, follow the bubbles. You know, like something that you're taught when you were like, must have been 5 when someone came to school and was like, if you're ever in water upside down, follow the bubbles. And that just came to my mind. It's like, stay calm so you don't build up lactic acid in the body, and then follow the bubbles. And that's what I did. And I got out. It was fine. So that was pretty crazy, for sure. I remember I was 22 years old. I pulled myself to the side of the river and I just burst out laughing. I was like, you know.
Not today, Death.
Not today, exactly. Haha, you nearly got me. My own stupidity. So I'd say that was probably the craziest thing. But that was me being crazy. The craziest thing I've seen was a guy bike touring on a unicycle. That was just crazy. He was just resting with one foot on a wall with a unicycle with 2 panniers on it. And I was just like, how do you hills? How do you hills?
Yeah, those things are single speed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. You've had more tame experiences.
I've definitely had more tame experiences, but I suppose something I, maybe pick out, a crazy thing about it that often boggles my mind is just how easy and often how cheap it is. I often tell I've toured around Norway, famously very expensive country, and I was in Norway for about a month and only bought 1 bulb of garlic and a packet of peanuts, and other than that, just ate out of their bins, which might sound very rough, but it's the lifestyle, and it's incredibly joyous. The world when you're out in it is just constantly giving you stuff. And if it's not bins, then it'll be some lovely person who says, why don't you come in for dinner, or why don't you come in for a shower or something like that. The kind of generosity that you can tap into is really, really strong. And definitely when I'm in the kind of normal mode of living in a house, being stationary, that feels crazy. The possibility of that feels very crazy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. You think I would never I'd be on my own.
It'd be too difficult.
Too hard.
I'd be on my own, and it just really isn't.
That's really
everything's supporting you all the time.
I think you've just reminded me of the most beautiful moment I've had bike touring. I was on the Splugen Pass, which is one of the highest roads in Europe. I think it might be the highest mountain pass in Europe. Crosses from Switzerland to Italy, and I reached the top. I'd woken up at 4 a.m, halfway up the climb, and then done the rest of the climb. Reached the top, left my bike there, and decided to hike a little bit up to the tippy top, where I found the purest spring water ever, which became my special water. I had a bottle for special pure mountain water, and then that common muck. But when I came back down from that hike, on my bike, someone had just left 2 peaches on the seat. And I just wept. I was just like, the thing that struck me about it is they weren't there. They didn't hang around to get the thanks. They just saw a bike completely unlocked, left at the top of the thing, thought, yeah, they're going to need that. And then went on, and I just, it just put me into this stream of kindness, that was probably the most beautiful thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. I think, I can echo moments like that. People just kind of, even if it's not kind of giving, there's just so much excitement around it. I think something that brings a lot of sadness is tied to this is that a lot of people believe they can't do it. And
a lot of people actually can't do it.
Well, a lot of people can't do it. You
like
have to be very, very
painful.
grateful for the ability to do it. But you can see it in people's eyes often. They are so just, it is that kind of sense of freedom coming through. And it's really beautiful to kind of behold that in other people when you come whizzing by on your bike.
Well, there was that Scottish guy the other day.
Yeah, I was
and they were both out cycling, and he kind of just had this little twinkle in his eye that he just wanted to join us. And then he went like that to his wedding ring. It was like, oh, dude, like.
Just got to convince this one.
But you see that kind of thing. You see that kind of thing a lot. It's like people just feel kind of stuck into their lives.
Yeah,
and they kind of see you and they're like, wow, I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, we've done the most beautiful thing there. This is my favourite, most important bit of gear. I love the gear.
Now we're getting into it.
Now we're getting into the real meat of it.
Cycle nerds, listen up. The gear man has something to say.
Do you want to say what your most important bit of gear is?
Well, it's got to be secondary to the bike.
Yeah,
I feel like obviously the bike
pretty necessary.
Obviously, the bike's the most important bit of gear, but also I don't think so, because you can do a tour on any. I do think. I mean, I've seen a unicyclist tourer. Guys in like big tricycles, tandems. Like you see the craziest things. So you can, like I saw one guy touring on like a 10-pound thing that he'd found in a scrapyard. And it was just, but he'd been doing like hundreds of miles on it, crazy. So the bike isn't actually the most important thing you can tour on any bike. But that is a hard question. The most important bit of gear. I think every tour that I've done, I've had a kind of totem dangling off the front. Sometimes they've been with me for like years. The first one I remember was a little monkey teddy bear that my brother gave to me before I left, and he was like 5 or 6, and he was like, like you're gonna do a big scary thing, take this with you, kind of thing, and it got hung there for ages. Now I've got a little plastic skeleton which represents my granddad coming with me. So I think there's something about that, something that's kind of completely novelty or not, practical in any in any real sense, that's kind of totemic that you can look at while you're riding to kind of draw inspiration from. I'd say it's probably the most important thing for me. Saying that, I did just lose my Vajra necklace, I think, the other day, which I'm really sad about. But yeah, that's me. What about you? I'm
going to say something far less enchanting.
Great.
I think it's bike bags. Really nicely designed bike bag. God, I'm such a materialist. But in a similar sense, you're on the bike all day. And if you can find a way where you don't have to get off to do stuff, that is so nice.
Yeah.
When you've just got your snacks right there, you can get a coat out. Can't quite do that with the current setup on the cargo bike, but my normal touring setup, I can just get my coat out, put it on. Don't have to put my feet on the floor.
Yeah.
And there's something really wonderful.
Sometimes a little net to have fruit in.
Yeah,
like a little front net, and you can just like munch banana while you're moving.
Yeah, all those sorts of things. I spend hours obsessing over kind of getting everything within an arm's reach in all the directions. But I definitely, I do. that could take us on to a great. I saw this question. It's funny that I'm reading these out.
I know.
What have you noticed about me, and what have I noticed about you?
Like touring quirks.
Yeah,
like
touring
little quirks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see anything.
You're very. It's interesting. I think we're quite dichotomous in this way.
That's why I wrote it down.
Yeah, but it's nice because it feels kind of complementary. Definitely less planny than I am, and much more kind of like in the moment, which I think is beautiful. Any specific quirks? I can't think of any, really, to be honest. But just like very kind of going for it. And just like things go in and it all gets off and then off you go. And I think, no, what? That's not been done properly. It seems to work. You've got no mud guards. First thing I noticed is, what the hell? Here's a big quirk. A huge line of mud up your back. That's a quirk of yours.
The reason why I don't have mud guards is because no one's given them to me yet. I haven't seen any in a charity shop and I haven't found any on the floor or in a bin, so that means you've got no mud guards in my world.
You may never.
Yeah, I'd probably just say the opposite then. Yeah. Like anything I need, I'm like, Kit, have you got this? He's like, yeah, there you go. And like, he'll like know the exact pocket, the exact part of the pocket it's in on what bag. It's amazing. He's like, I'm like, where's the flapjacks? Like, we've got like a massive box of flapjacks. He's like, can we have a flapjack? And I'm like, I'm rooting around. Who puts the flapjacks at the bottom of the bag?
Yeah, who puts the flapjacks at the bottom of the bag?
But yeah, I think and I think that's saying something about your mind. I think you must have quite a relatively clean and tidy mind to be able to make the space around you so precise and tidy. It's really beautiful. Yeah, it's really nice to see how organised it all is, and it does make things very smooth. Yeah.
And I think the final thing, which kind of leads, I think, nicely on, what do we think about while we're doing this for 8+ hours a day? And I think possibly you'd maybe kind of like relate this to the Dharma, because I think I've been noticing that a lot these last few days.
Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
You do get through a lot of thinking if you're riding
a lot of thinking.
Long days. I suppose the first hour is just like, why do I do this? The first hour of the morning, either it's that because you're achy and everything and you're tired and stuff, or it's like, yes, morning, and everything's kind of there, isn't it?
It largely depends on if you camped at the top or the bottom of a hill.
Yeah. And whether you did 90k the day before or 130k the day before. I think I just do a lot of emotional processing on the bike, like without effort. I don't have to sit there and try and work through stuff. Things just, the turning of the wheel, it just happens in your mind. Like, that's what I noticed about it. So when I first went touring, in the year before, I was like severely depressed, playing video games, taking drugs, not having a great time of it, dropped out of uni, living in my girlfriend at the time's bedroom, and, just was very overweight and very unhappy. And then, when I started touring, it was like I had original thoughts again, like, I haven't thought about that before. I haven't. I think it's just because there's that cyclical thing happening, and effort's going in and you're getting somewhere. That just kind of starts turning the wheels of the mind. And I think from doing that for so many years, it just eventually exhausted itself in a certain sense. Like I'd thought about enough, and it was like, okay, well now I want to know how to stop thinking about stuff as much, And then that's what kind of turned me towards the Dharma more and more, is that you just, because you're doing this cyclical thinking so much, you kind of see the patterns forming, and then they can kind of fall away, and then you see the next pattern form, and then they can kind of fall away. And that kind of helps begin the kind of unfolding, I think, process of the mind. I mean, a lot of it will be, where are we going? What kind of thing could I get to improve the bike setup and stuff like that? There are obviously all of those thoughts kind of popping up. Random things from the past, like really random things from the past end up popping in for me. They have been this weekend because I haven't been touring for a long time. You're just kind of constantly met with the world. And so you get constant things that kind of pop into your mind responding to those kind of stimuli. And so I just end up thinking about the past quite a lot. I think lots of things, kind of like random things that I've never thought about in years and years and years, old movies and moments. And then because I've got nothing, I'm just cycling, I just feel them.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
those moments again, and how that movie made me feel, or that kind of time with my friend, or and then I feel them, and I might kind of get really happy or cry, or something will kind of happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what about you.
Yeah, no, that feels very familiar. I think, there is something about that just kind of... I think what I love, when I first started touring, I wasn't very cognizant or aware of this, but like maybe you can empathise. Feel slightly that life lacked purpose, and there was something that wasn't like, what am I really doing this for? No, I wasn't a Buddhist back then, but there is something about just each day. What you do is you get on your bike and you turn your legs around until you go to bed again. It's pretty straightforward, actually. And there's something about that kind of directness and ease and just like simplicity of purpose that means you go to bed every night feeling like you've really accomplished something, that you've really done something in the world. You've done something with your body, you've done something with your mind. And that does really conduce to a kind of stillness, I've noticed. I think what I found interesting, this is only the second time I've done a tour since really engaging with the Dharma. But what I'm noticing more and more is like, oh yeah, there's still, it's like got its own world of quirks, and it's definitely in a kind of more refined state, but there's like all this other stuff, and you're right, it dredges things up. We were talking the other day about just like my pure hatred of cars. No offense to anyone who owns a car or drives a car, but I really struggle with them. When you're going along a busy road and there's just that noise and that presence, this big thing coming past. But it's been so good to use that as a kind of like, oh, well, what's that saying? What is that? That's another human being there. Why is there that kind of like empathic disconnection happening? Why is ill will coming up against what is just another phenomena passing by? And it's been a lovely thing to reflect on. That thing, you're always moving as well. Like the world is coming in and then going. Your field of view is just kind of constantly soaking the world in, and then it's passing by. And so just letting things come in, and some things are easier to let in. It's much easier to let in a beautiful view as you're going down a descent than it is like a very angry driver coming, and giving you the finger as they go past. Some things are easier than others, but trying to treat it all as just the world coming through, or you going through the world, whatever, it feels really, really wonderful.
Well, that's important, isn't it? Because it's like you nothing around you stays the same. You're not in your house where you know where everything is. It's like, okay, yeah, you got the bike where everything should be in the right place. Should be. But everything external to that is new information. It's completely new information, and then it's old information. It's gone. You don't. We've kind of, so great how similar we are in touring in certain ways, because we both don't want it to ever turn backwards. We both just like, no, we've gone this way. It was the wrong way. It might add on a long distance, but we can't go back. Who's going to go backwards? But it's like that does something to the mind, because it's all newness coming in. And so what you're seeing and what you're experiencing is just your tendencies, like really clearly. And it's really easy to separate that from the world. It's like, oh, this is me doing this. It's not the world that's kind of having that effect, because it's all coming in and it's all new. This is me. I'm creating these kind of things in my mind, and that gives you the ability to kind of do something about it, or at least just watch.
Definitely. And our next destination is the very top. The tippy top of the country, John O'Groats. So lots of new things there. Parts of the country I've never been to before whatsoever. Lots of the Midlands I've just never seen. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me
Really,
too.
really looking forward to that.
All Buddhist centres apparently from here to John O'Groats appear to be in the hilliest regions of the country. So looking forward to all of that.
Yeah, looking forward to making that decision.
Yeah, that was great. But I'm also looking forward to being joined by a few people.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more people joining at Buddha Field, and then there'll be people in and out all the way up the country.
Yeah.
If you're watching this and you do want to join in, do reach out, and you can join us for any stretch of it that you like,
As
basically.
much or as little as you can make. Yeah, it'd be really wonderful.
Because it would be nice when there's a full group kind of together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, we're doing it for this wonderful place, which is an excellent context of practice. If you want some edge in your Dharma, and you don't want to cycle up the country, come to Alfoxton. I feel very grateful for what this place has given me over the years that I've known it, I feel happy that I can give something back.
And this is my first time actually visiting Alfoxton. I've literally never been here before, and I've only been here for one night. But already I can see, talking to a few of the people who have just visited for the last few weeks and maybe are moving on soon, you can really feel how much it's touched their lives and how much it's really changed them in such a short amount of time. So it is really doing something here.
Yeah.
And by being here, I'm now fully behind the mission.
Brilliant. That's good.
I was sceptical at first. But now I've been here, I'm like, this is great. So give us lots of money, please.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Link in the description.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe. That's it, isn't it? That's how you do one of these things.
Is that? Yeah, that's the way.
Brilliant.
Great.
Thank you very much.